In these past few weeks, I have went through 3 initial interviews and I failed with the 3 of it. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Why talk about failures, right? I mean, it would be nice uploading a new vlog announcing I am working with a company now, or maybe sharing that one of my application progressed to the next stage. Well, unfortunately, we are not there yet. Still, I call it lucky since I was qualified for the initial interview, and that's what I always say to myself if I badly need a small tap like this. So the roles I've applied with these 3 companies still falls for front-end developer role, but their initial interview process was different because of the nature of the company. It's from 3 distinct type of work environment. So Company C is a big corporate company here in Australia. After a week of submitting my application, I was notified that I was shortlisted. Initially, I thought it might be a spam because I couldn't believe such a company would be impressed with my skill set. The role's description also seemed somewhat beyond my current skill set. Still, I was happy. And the role I applied for with this company is called developer. On the other hand, Company D is a non-profit organization where I applied nearly 2 months ago. I was notified about the initial interview just last week in May. And it's a team I've been eager to work with because of the organization's positive contribution to the government. And the role I've applied for is called web designer and developer. And prior to the interview, they expect me to showcase my top 2 designs. Meanwhile, with the Company E, it is a 3-year-old company that was advertised by a recruiter. It took me a few days to secure an initial interview, and the role I applied for is an AEM front-end developer. So here's the whole thing happened. With the Company C, I expected 3 panelists for the interview, but only 1 developer showed up. I had prepared for this interview for over a week, covering both behavioral and technical questions. However, I noticed during the interview that he wasn't really listening or not paying attention at all, and I based it to his gestures. And most of the questions focused on behavioral aspects. I had anticipated a 30-minute interview, but it lasted just over 10 minutes. Initially, I felt good about it because I answered the questions very well. However, when my happy peel wore off, I began to worry that the short interview might indicate an unsuccessful application. So with Company D, it's like a 3-day preparation. I was not feeling confident at all prior to the interview because my designs are not recent enough and I think the styling is outdated. There were 3 people during the interview and it was going smoothly. But when they asked a few stuff that I don't know much about, I was straight away honest about it and just show that I am always open and eager to learn new things. Meanwhile, in Company E, it's been just 2 days. I secured the initial interview quickly, and I wasn't certain my resume would be strong enough to progress further. It's because when a recruiter endorses your resume to a company, it's not guaranteed you'll secure the initial interview. So the day before my scheduled interview, the recruiter called me and mentioned I needed to prepare more, emphasizing it would be casual since it wasn't a technical interview. Unfortunately, I didn't review technical questions and trusted her completely. So during the interview, 1 developer showed up and asked me many technical identification type of questions, leading to a casual conversation instead of a formal interview. Right?
don't know how to call this, but we ordered this side on tea and going to try.
So I don't think the interview went smoothly because I struggled with some questions. Afterward, I felt disappointed and just moped around. Of course.
Wow. It's working.
My realization with these 3 failed interviews is that interviews in the tech companies are not just about acing technical questions. I know for sure that is important, but they're also about how you fit into the company's culture and vibe. It's about finding that mutual connection where your skills align with their mission and values, or basically knowing it's one of the panel interviews like you enough and are pleased enough with your answers during behavioral questions. So honestly, I'm a bit hesitant to share these insights since I am still searching for a job, but here are the lessons I've learned and routines I follow before interviews. Firstly, whenever I encounter new interview questions, I make sure to jot them down. If it's a face to face interview, I do my best to recall the questions afterward. Secondly, I focus on familiarizing myself with behavioral questions. I take notes from great front-end website and draft my answers in Notion. So this preparation helps me calm my nerves that sometimes cause my mind to go blank during interviews. Thirdly, I review the technical skills required for the role, using this as a foundation for studying technical questions. So I usually review the role description given from the HR or recruiter. And I have heard a tip from Julia Faye's advice. She's another tech YouTuber, and she suggested that it is also okay to ask a little list of pointers on the structure of the interviews, if it's behavioral or technical, since in our field the possible questions are pretty vast and it's not effective and efficient enough to review questions that are not expected to be asked during the interview. Now, this is one of the few important things I regret from my past interviews. If you apply for a role advertised by a recruiter, you can freely listen to their advice before the interview. However, it is still crucial to prepare in your usual manner. Recruiters act as middlemen, passing on information that they are aware of. So it's best to stick to your typical interview preparation routine. Lastly, I think this is a tip that I always wish not to forget prior to my interview since my weak spot is speaking. I mumble words sometimes because I get nervous easily. Hence, I tend to have a script while doing this voiceover since I either get nervous or get lost in my train of thought. Same reason why I struggle to communicate effectively enough to the panelists and able to translate my thoughts that could somehow please them. So, in these vlogs or in this way, I try to speak more than I could so that it could heighten my self confidence somehow. Believe me, I am the last person you could ask advice about self confidence. I swear. Anyway, My takeaway about rejection is to be not disheartened by rejections. I know I might sound hypocritical since I sometimes forget these words whenever I am too weak to pick myself up.
This interview, this is actually an initial interview, so possibly this is not a tech interview, just more on behavioral questions or asking about my past projects. AEM, since this is for the AEM Frontend Developer role.
Hi, Erin.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
But I just like to say to you, if you're like me, still searching for that job opportunity, is to use rejections as opportunities to reflect, learn, and grow. Maybe that company was not the right fit for you, and that is okay. Since each interview is a chance to understand yourself better and refine what you're looking for in your career, and that this experience should be a stepping stone and not a setback.
So they let me prepare for like 5 to 10 slides, since this position is for a website designer and a website developer at the same time. So the slides is for the website design. Honestly, I forgot this company. I just saved the company name and not the URL. I forgot to save it on my Notion. And FYI, this company, I applied this like April 16, and they get back to me more than a month. It's more than a month. Yeah, I think it's more than a month. Yeah, it's more than a month. Because it's April 16. It's almost 2 months. Almost 2 months that they get back to me.
Currently, I'm doubling down my skills. I'm currently studying MongoDB, doing side projects, refining my interview approach, and most importantly, seeking out companies whose values align with me. It's really all about finding that perfect match.